Good morning and welcome to another episode of Breaking Through Your Now with your life coach, Sybil Sloan. Remember, if you change the way that you think, you will alter the entire course of your life. It's another beautiful day, and guess what? We're still celebrating the centennial, the 100-year anniversary. I know it's a different week, but this has not changed the month. We're 100 years in, ladies. We have earned this right to celebrate our rights. And today I have a guest with me, and she's going to talk about what she is doing to not only empower women, but to change the life of those that she's surrounded by. Please welcome to our show, Miss MaChea Jones. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, you're welcome. As I always say, the platform is ours.
It
And
is.
that's the
Thank you.
opportunity that comes with being a part of the greatest gender in life,
Yes,
a
ma'am.
woman. Yes.
Women.
But in your profession,
Yes.
I know there's limited things you can say because of the privacy and the protection of so many things involved. But what do you do in your profession?
I am a social worker, a
Right.
licensed social worker. However, I work with those juveniles that are less fortunate than most of our juveniles in the area. I work with those juvenile delinquents that have been court ordered to be in a residential facility. And not only do I work with those juveniles, I work in a specialized area where those juveniles may have been sexually abused or they have sexually abused somebody else.
Wow. So you deal with them psychologically? Like, what area do you deal with those juveniles?
I like to look at it as we are trying to look after the whole person, not only just the act that they have committed, but we try to, of course, there's the treatment area that the department does look at, and they take into, that they are court ordered there to
Right.
get the treatment for what they have done. But not only that, we just try to teach them because some of them come in, they don't have specific life skills. So we
Right.
make sure we take care of those life skills. And I just like for people to remember that we are talking about children, and sometimes people forget that. So I am also there. I am an advocate for those children that cannot speak for themselves. And so we do, we have training on with those adults that sometimes forget that we are servicing children.
That's interesting. In North Carolina, I used to be a guardian ad litem. And in North Carolina, a guardian ad litem is the voice of the child.
Yes,
In Alabama, it's the court. They have to be actually an attorney here in the state of Alabama.
correct.
But in the state of North Carolina, we were guardian ad litems and we weren't attorneys. And we filed our reports with attorneys that actually gave the reports to the judge. But we spoke for the child and on their behalf.
Correct.
Have you seen, and this is just an observation or question,
Hmm.
have you seen there be any similarities with certain things, demographics, socio-economical classifications? Have you seen any similarities with that in the youth population that you're servicing?
Most definitely. Some similarities, or what I, often like to just expose my peers to, is that we think is one area, but it's
Right.
actually not. Of course, socioeconomic status does play a big portion in it, but I don't want people to, just focus on that area because we do have people that are not, in the less fortunate area that commit these same acts as others. So, and it's a different. Some people want to wire it down to race. Not true. We have all different races going
Wow.
down.
So what would you recommend to someone whose child may be facing this and they may not have gotten into the system, because the reality of the reality is that people deal with this every day without law enforcement.
They do.
They deal with this every day without a judge. They deal with this every day without someone rendering a conviction or a judgment that places them somewhere. What would you say to a mother? What would you say to the aunt, the grandmother that's dealing with a child in this situation and law enforcement haven't become involved?
If we're at a point where law enforcement has not become involved, be informed. Be the informed parent. If there is someone that you can talk to, even if there isn't someone you can talk to, Google it. Most people don't understand that the age of consent in the state of Alabama is 16 years old. So if you are that parent that may allow the boyfriend or the girlfriend to come and stay for several hours or stay overnight, don't do it. not only in a dating relationship, but be careful with whom you leave your children with. It's all too often that we see familiar perpetrators. So my voice to people is just be careful with whom you leave your children with. Make that your top priority.
Wow. So this first half has been absolutely amazing. I know that we're moving into the area before we take a break. And I want to say this, the one thing that I heard you say, I realize that a lot of times, because I was a victim of sexual abuse or assault, I realize that it does come more so from familiar
It does.
backgrounds or encounters, and sometimes we ignore the fact that we just aren't making good judgment calls, and sometimes we expose our children to things simply because we're not making good judgment calls.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, what am I saying? We need to make good judgment calls. We need to always consider the person that I think has the lesser ability, because a child can't control how they're being treated. They're pretty much treated by people because as an adult. So I'm going to say to you before we go into this break, remember that your child is powerless. Your child is oftentimes the inferior one in all situations. And even though they could be fresh with their mouth or their behavior, it is not their fault, and they're not responsible for being violated. We'll be right back after this commercial.
We'll be right back with Breaking Through Your Now with Sybil Sloan. Now, back to Breaking Through Your Now with Sybil Sloan.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning back in with us as we talk with Miss MaChea Jones. Now to a lighter note. And I know that some of you, I apologize because it's too early to be left with that weight. So we're going to shift gears. I don't want to talk about it last because I didn't want to leave us with the heaviness. So now we're going to shift gears to something more enlightening. What is this MJ Crafts? What is this that I'm hearing? Please tell me more.
Most definitely. MJ's Crafts was kind of birthed out of needing something to do at home to kind of relieve the heaviness from the day.
Wow.
So a couple of years ago, I was buying all this monogram stuff, and something was like, you can do this yourself. So that's exactly what I did. The machine was actually gifted to me, and so I took it and ran with it. So I started out doing cups, and then somebody said, well, since you're doing this, you need to make me some t-shirts. I was like, it's going to be a process, but I'm going to do it. So I started doing t-shirts, and from there it took off. So now I do t-shirts, cups, handkerchiefs, pillows, you name it. It's done.
You name it.
Most definitely.
So what I heard you say, and I'm always pulling out my didactic coaching moments.
Okay.
This is a coaching moment. When you deal with something in life that's oppressive, that's weighty, that's confining, if you will,
Yes.
that's heavy, you have to decide that you have an outlet. You have to move outside of that mindset. Some people aren't going to go meditate. Some meditation, exercise, all of those things are healthy. But if you're not going to do those things, find a passion. Find a purpose. Let that fuel you. Most importantly, let that pull you away from that dark place, because there's no way to deal with life circumstances of this magnitude and not find yourself in a dark place. So I'm saying to you, no matter what you're going through, no matter your job, your profession, it could be a relationship, could be toxic. Find something to detoxify. I guess that's my best statement. Detoxify. And I'm not talking about drinking some tea. I'm talking about real life. Detoxify. Do something that's going to totally empty the thought of that situation out of you, empty the feeling of that situation out of you, so that you can recenter and refocus. So you found a refocus in crafting.
I did. I've actually come up with just a thought process, an artistic side that I didn't even know I had.
Wow.
And it's amazing, because sometimes I can start out maybe like at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm there probably till 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning.
Easy.
Easy.
But guess what? You turned your passion into profit.
Yes.
Oh, I love it all day long.
Yes.
If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, when you come home, you're into MJ's world.
MJ's Crafts all day long.
Wow. So how could people find you if they wanted to order a shirt, order a mug, order a handkerchief? A handkerchief sounds good for me.
Yes.
How would they locate you, and where would they locate you at?
I am on social media. I'm on Facebook at MJ's Crafts. You need to put the little @ sign in front of MJ's Crafts LLC. I'm also on Instagram. Same thing, the at symbol, and it's MJ's Crafts LLC, all capital. My email address is mjscrafts@gmail.com. Phone number 334-544-0416.
So if you need something made, MJ's Crafts, she can make cups, she can make shirts, she can make handkerchiefs. Y'all know why I keep saying handkerchiefs? Because when I preach, I need handkerchiefs that look like something that I want to be carrying around. Because you know when you go to the store to get this, you got a plain handkerchief and you got to pay $15.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
You do.
I need, if I'm wearing plain handkerchief, I need to at least have something signifying myself. So as you use that moment, you're a social worker, so clearly you already know the process.
Yes.
You already know the road to wholeness. Sometimes we can be our worst client, patient,
Yes, we can.
person. What would you say to a person who has to make that hard transition between where it pays them and their private life? How do you make that transition?
It took me a minute. It is a process to be there, but what I was often told, because I do work in a secure facility, is once I leave what's behind the gate. Once it's time for myself and my private life, that's exactly what I do. I totally digress. Most times I don't take phone calls from work because I am one of those people that is on call 24/7. Wow. So sometimes I just put the phone down, and that's what I do, and just tell people to stay steady, steadfast.
So what about that person? Because before we go, I know because I'm that person. What about that person who just can't put the phone down? What would you give them for that one thing, to break through that now, to get through this moment? What would you say to them, as we're closing out, what would you say to them to do to get them in the mode of practicing being able to just put it down and step away from it?
It's time for some self-time. It's me time. And that's all you can do. And you just have to get it in the mindset that is what you have to do. You cannot carry that weight with you in your personal life.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. And I want to remind you that if you get to that place where you're carrying your paid life into your private life, I just want you to schedule a date with yourself. Take 15 minutes, even if you can't take a day or an hour, take 15 minutes and schedule a date with yourself. Shut down your phone, shut down your computer, go outside without your phone, without your watch, go outside without anything that could prohibit you from just becoming one with yourself, the universe, and God. We're going to wrap it up for this part of the show, and we're going to come back with another great guest. But keep it locked in right here, and we'll be right back.
We'll be right back with Breaking Through Your Now with Sybil Sloan. Now, back to Breaking Through Your Now with Sybil Sloan.
Welcome, Miss LaShandra Warren Barnes. Welcome to my show. You Miss Pauline's daughter to me, though. I know, right? I'm so funny. I said Miss Pauline's daughter, but you are Miss Pauline's daughter.
Most definitely.
Because guess what your mama said to me? Because her mom makes makeup. Let me put this plug in there. Her mom makes makeup, not makeup.
Jewelry.
Look, I'm making her make makeup and jewelry. This is what happened whenever you trying to make up stuff in your head about something. Her mama does jewelry. Let's deal with that for real, in real life. I don't even know if these might not be the ones her mom made. But her mom was like, when she texted me, she said, I'm LaShandra's mama. So I always say you Miss Pauline's daughter because she made it clear to me that she's LaShandra's mama. So she made jewelry. Did your mama make that necklace? I just want to know.
No, she didn't make this one, but she has made something similar to this.
She
made this bracelet, though.
Okay, because I was going to have an issue if she made that necklace and she didn't give me one. So, Miss Warren Barnes.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Mr. Greg. Hey. What would you say about your life? Because you're first, like you're double first. You are the court administrator for the 15th Circuit Judicial Court. And I don't know everything, but based on what I do know, they never had a woman and they never had a black woman
Correct.
in that seat.
Correct.
How do you feel?
Well, I am honored. I do realize that I could only get to where I am because God had a plan for me. Where I am now is not because of anything that I did. He laid the foundation. He put this whole plan together. As a child growing up in Trenton Court Housing Project here in Montgomery, Alabama,
Stop again, because we're going to roll back, because I want people to hear. I know I'm interrupting you, but you said something that somebody going to miss. Ooh, don't you even let, were you born? She was born in the hood. I'm sorry. I don't know no other way to say it. She was born in an area that was considered to be poverty stricken, right?
right.
Okay, you go back. I just needed to insert that because sometimes we miss what we need to hear because we miss it. I just need to plug it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. But I, as I said, growing up in Trenton Court, a housing project here in Montgomery, Alabama, I would have never imagined history being a part of my story,
Wow.
but God did. And I am so thankful and grateful that God had his hands on me back then when I know that I didn't know him like I do now. And the interesting part about growing up in the projects at that time, a lot of people saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. So I had people back then telling me that they knew I was going to do something good with my life. But as a teenager, sometimes, us females, we do have low self-esteem. We go through our little different areas, our periods in life, and we have to learn and grow. And I'm just thankful that look, part of my story is growing up in that housing project because I have learned so many great lessons that I use today, even being the court administrator.
Wow. So what you're saying to me is no matter where you come from, it's all part of propelling you for where your purpose and where you're going to be going. It's a part of your journey. And so when you think about being the first, what did that come with the weight? Because sometimes when you're the first something, you start thinking like, I got to overachieve. You start thinking I got to do it better than everybody. What did the weight feel like? Because it had to be a weight. We can pretend like it was all good and glamorous because we got the spot, but there's a weight that comes with being the first because now it's like you have so many people that are expecting you to do things a certain way because why? You're the first.
There is definitely a weight that comes with it. As I said, knowing God, you have to know God. There was a point in my life before I got this promotion, I would pray and say, God, please send me where you want me to be and equip me with what I need when I get there. And I didn't know that this is what I was praying for at the time. And there have been many days that I've had some hard days. I'm not going to lie to anybody and say that it has been easy being the first. There is a lot of weight. And if you're the type of person who cares about others, that is part of the weight because you want to make sure that people are being treated fairly. And being in that position, I am in a position to help a lot of people. A lot of people don't know what I do. They just automatically think that I deal with jury duty, but there's so much more that I encounter on a regular basis. But my whole thing is making sure that people are treated fairly when they come into that courthouse. So if history had to be a part of my story for that to happen, I'm glad that I made history.
Well, I'm glad that you made history too, because that's how I met you, and I say that with respect and homage because sometimes people, what I didn't see, what I don't see, and what I don't experience is that you have gotten this place and you've gotten beside yourself. It's almost like I'm still LaShandra, Pauline's daughter from Trenton Court. I just grew up, got educated, got my mind right, so you're just not going to handle me the same way. But what I see is you don't take away from when you get to that person. There's the people that come in and they don't look like us. We can say it how we want to. They don't dress like us. They don't smell like us. I've never seen you disregard a person because we don't look like we came from the same side of the street. I never seen you discard a person or disregard them because they look like they didn't come in with a suit on and a golf t-shirt or a golf shirt. So we're going to take a break and come right back. But what would you say to someone who doesn't want to fulfill their purpose? We're going to deal with this after we come back from the break. But when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about what you say to someone who don't want to deal with their purpose because their purpose could have some pain attached to it. Just know that no matter where you go and what you do, if you have purpose, pain will be a part of the journey. We'll be right back after this message.
Be right back with Breaking Through Your Now with Sybil Sloan. Now, back to Breaking Through Your Now with Sybil Sloan.
Welcome back to this last segment of Breaking Through Your Now with your life coach, Sybil Sloan, and my guest, Miss LaShandra Warren Barnes, who is the first female and African-American, if you will, lady of color, brown, court administrator for Montgomery County 5th Judicial Circuit. Is that correct? 5th?
15.
I messed it up all the time. It's okay. 15th Judicial Circuit. Hey, listen, you remember one day I was talking to you and I said, the 11th Judicial Circuit. You was like, no, it's the 15th. I was like, something is the 11th. So when I went back to look at the federal court with the 11th Circuit, but hey, listen, y'all, let me tell you something about numbers. They come back around. So 15th Judicial Circuit. That's what we're talking about. Now, before we went to break, we were talking about people who have purpose but pain is attached to it. Imagine if when you were in internal court, you allowed that part of your life to predict what you thought your outcome would be. Because I'm sure there was a girl, there was a child, there was a female in the same community with you that chose another path. And that's not your concern, but I'm just saying it's interesting how we can be in the same situation with the same tools, the same arsenal, but we do something different. What would you say to a person who's trying to get from that painful place? Maybe they can't get past I was born and raised in the hood. Maybe they can't get past it because they chose some different things. They may not have chosen to handle life the way you did. What would you recommend to that person?
I would tell that person, regardless of what you are dealing with right now, it is not the end. You still can start back over. All you need at this point is for someone to lead and direct you and just spend some time with you. If you know that you need help, reach out to someone who you can trust and just let them know what your plans are, what your desires are, what you want to do. There were people who came in my neighborhood when I was younger, and they tutored us. They, took us on field trips, and they took time with us. Even with my mom. My mom was a single mother growing up. She had 3 kids. My mom dropped out of high school when she was 17 because she was pregnant with my brother, my oldest brother. And one thing that I can say from that, during that time, that may have been pain for her, and there were some plans that she had to put on hold because of it. But even throughout that, when I was in high school and there were some times that she couldn't help me with my homework, she stayed up with me. She found neighbors to come help me. She would pay my brother's friends to take me to Alabama State University to get tutoring. And that's what I grew up around, someone who was already hardworking, someone who was dedicated and didn't want me to make any mistakes in life. So it doesn't matter, because even with that situation, even with my mother being a teenage mom, that may have been frowned upon by some people, but look what God turned around and did. God made sure that the woman who didn't finish high school, she gave birth to a daughter who not only made history, but a daughter who received 3 college degrees. So it is possible and it can happen, and you have to have the determination, you have to have the willpower, and you have to have the desire in you to know that you do have an opportunity, that you do have a chance. It can happen for anybody. And if there is somebody watching this right now and you are troubled and you are just seeking help, just pray about it. There have been many a times that I have had to pray. There were times that I was in college and wanted to quit. But I had my mother who was there saying, you have come too far and you need to continue to go ahead. And at each one of those graduations, my mom was there. Even to this day, when I found out that I had received a promotion as court administrator, and one of the judges asked if I wanted to say something, in the room full of people, I basically said, I want to give a shout out to my mother. I said, today is our Academy Award moment. And I just felt like I needed to let people know in that room that I grew up in a housing project that was within walking distance of the very courthouse that I became the first female African American court administrator at. So it can happen for anybody. And that's one of the main reasons why when I encounter people who I don't know, or if I do know them, a lot of people I encounter I grew up with. So how dare I figure I get to a point and think that I have arrived? I haven't.
Wow.
I am still LaShandra. I am still Pauline's daughter. I am still Ruby Lee's granddaughter. And I know that my mother and my grandmother and my family, I know that they are proud of me. So if I can tell you to do anything, is to keep the faith, make sure you pray, and just believe in God and believe in yourself, because you can do it.
Amen. And just before because I know we're about to conclude this portion of the segment, tell them the name of your mom's business, because I want to make sure that Miss Pauline gets her a shout out.
Mom's business is called Pauline's Unique Pieces. Like I said, she made this bracelet for me, and she has made jewelry for many of like my prestigious friends. If someone is interested in ordering something from my mom, I can post some pictures on Facebook. Of course, my Facebook is LaShandra Warren Barnes on Facebook, or my email address is lwarrenbarnes@gmail.com. If you're interested in jewelry, or if you're interested and needed to be encouraged, reach out to me. I will respond. I'm here to help people. I consider myself an encourager.
I absolutely love it. I believe that we're all on a journey of servitude and servanthood, and that we were sent here just as Jesus was. Jesus was sent here to serve mankind, and I believe that our mission is to serve. Our mission is to always remember that if we can do it for one, if we've done it to the least of them, we've done it to the greatest of them. So you have to remember that no matter where you are with your journey, no matter what you have going on of your life, you must change the way that you think so that you may alter the entire course of your life. I want to thank Miss LaShandra Warren Barnes for coming. I want to thank you for being the first female and the first African American court administrator. And I want to thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week again, celebrating more women in this centennial of our right to vote.